Hello, and today we're going to make some ghee. I got a request from a friend to uh, provide a video of how I make ghee. Been making ghee for about 5 or 6 years now, and it's very easy to do actually. And when I first started out, I thought it was complicated, and I read, watched some videos, and they made it more complicated than it really is, I think. So I'm going to show you a simple version of how to make some ghee. So let's get started. So I use a stainless steel pan. It's a pretty large pan. I like to have the large base. I think it's good for heating up the butter. And so I'm going to use, I have a gas stove here. So I'm going to start out melting the butter, fairly low to medium heat. The quality of butter you use, I think, will determine the quality of your ghee. I think it's best to use a grass-fed cow butter. I use this store-bought version. This is Aviasal, which I found is a little bit better than some of the other butters I can get in the local store. And I have tried some local grass-fed beef butter, and that seemed to be very good. So I'm just going to start by, I cut up the butter into small pieces, and I'm going to let it melt for a while. And you really don't need much equipment to make ghee. You need the pan, and you need some small jars, and you need like a cheesecloth filter. And that's pretty much all you need. So it's going to melt for a little while, and then we'll come back to the second stage. So why do we cook ghee, and why do we eat ghee? Ghee is really a very healthy fat. It's a good fat. It has vitamins A, D, K, E, and it has a lot of nutrients. Omega-3s, nice amount of omega-3s, so it's very healthy. And what you're losing with this clarifying the butter is you're losing the milk solids, which are lactose, the milk sugar, and you're also losing the milk protein, the casein, and the water. So you can store ghee unrefrigerated for several weeks, if not months, and it'll be just fine because the water's not there. We're gonna enter the first phase, which is just evaporating the water. You'll see steam start to come off, and that's an indication that there's still water evaporating. And you'll start to see it bubble, and there'll be a foam that starts forming on top. And at the same time, the solids in the butter will start dropping out, and most of them will end up in the bottom of the pan, which we'll see later. So now the butter is melted, and you start to see a boiling of the butter, and this foam starts to appear on the top. And that's kind of the first stage. When you see this foam start to disappear, then that'll be the changing to a second stage of the cooking. So the foam is really increasing now, and you see this bubbling, and of course you see some steam coming off. So there's definitely some evaporation going on here. And so we'll let this go for a few more minutes. So we're a little further along in the process here, and the foam is really getting thick here, and you can see a lot of steam coming off. So it's really, really cooking now. And it's been about 3 minutes at this phase after the butter melted. So now we're starting to see that a little change. The foam is disappearing. It's boiling very rapidly. I'm going to turn it down, turn the heat down just a little bit. You don't need that much heat. In general, you're cooking with low heat when you're clarifying butter to retain the nutritional value. And so you're starting to see the foam break up a little bit, and you're still seeing some steam coming off, so there's some water in there. And at the same time, the solids are dropping to the bottom of the pan. And so we're kind of moving into what I call the second phase here. So even with a very low heat, we still have a very vigorous boiling action. And you see most of the foam, or some of the foam, has started to disappear. And we're still burning off some of the water, and it's been about 5 or 6 minutes from the point that the butter melted at this point. So now we're about 6 or 7 minutes into the cooking process. And you can see there's this foam is starting to break up into like smaller little clumps floating on the surface. And it's starting to clear a little bit as some of the solids drop out. So you should see a gradual clearing process. So we're about 8 minutes into the cooking process now. You see it's even getting more clear. I don't really do any stirring. You don't want to stir up what's already collected on the bottom. So you want to be careful, if you do use a utensil here, not to disturb what's on the bottom. You want that to, stick to the pan. One process I incorporate is just to move some of this foam away from the edge just a little bit. It tends to, kind of adhere to the sides of the pan, and I kind of help it by getting some of that floating material out into the middle so that it can drop out a little easier. It's not necessary, I think, but I think it moves the process along a little bit. Okay, so you see now we're into the second stage of cooking. You see the bubbles are getting much larger and lighter, and they don't really have that foamy look to them. They just look like they're, air bubbles. And at this point, almost all the water has evaporated, and we just have a little bit of some of the foam and the solids floating on top. So I'll let it cook just a little bit longer. It's been almost 10 minutes at this point of cooking. And so you can also see that the ghee is starting to change color a little bit. It's getting a little darker in color. And this is desirable. I like to cook it a little extra because you get this nice aroma and this toasty flavor, which is really nice. And once you put it in the refrigerator to cool, and I'll cover this at the end, it kind of reverts to a lighter color anyway, so you can't even tell it's really that dark. But the flavor will be enhanced if you just let it cook for a little while, just a couple minutes at the end, and you can see it's really getting a nice dark color. So now, pretty much all the solids have dropped out, and we're getting this other little foam on top, and that's my indication to stop the cooking. So I just turned off the heat, and we're gonna just let it cool, sit and cool just for a few minutes before we do the filtration process. So the final step would be to put the ghee in these small jars here. And I use this filter here, which is a very fine material. I've used a cotton cheesecloth before, which works fine. This material is really easy to clean, and it's been working, and it's reusable. I've used this probably, I don't know, 100 times maybe. So I know some people use a strainer at this point to put the cloth in, but I just put the cloth right over the jar, and that works for me. You could also double filter. I've seen some commercial ghees for sale that are double filtered to make sure you get all the sediment out. I find this does a pretty good job, especially if the solids have stuck at the bottom of the pan, so you don't have to worry about pouring the solids into the filter. So the ghee's been cooling for a couple minutes now, and you can see it's still got a little bit of boiling action, but you can see it's nice and dark. It's got this beautiful aroma coming up. It smells really delicious. So now we're going to move into the filtration. So I have this filter over the jar, and I'm just going to pour the ghee through the filter into the jar, fill it up, and then move the filter over to the next jar without dripping any ghee on the counter, hopefully. And then filling up the second jar. I cook about 600 grams of butter at a time, which gives me 3 of these small jars, which lasts, you know, a couple weeks in our house. We use a lot of ghee. We cook mostly with ghee and a little olive oil, but ghee is really fantastic for cooking. It's got a very high smoke point, so it doesn't do much smoking or burning. And very careful at the very end, because there are some pieces that are loose that will try and get into your jar. So I try and minimize the number of particles that get in. So completed that part of the process, and now we have about 2.5 jars of ghee. So I want to show you the bottom of the pan. So it's, you know, it's all the solids that have come out of the butter, the milk sugar, the milk protein, and all you're left with is this wonderful fat here, which is the good fat. And you see it's clear, nice yellow, kind of a dark yellow color. And the very last step is that I put the ghee in the refrigerator to cool. I find this gives it a nice consistency. If you put it in the refrigerator, you could leave it outside, but it's going to take a long time to solidify. And it seems like it has a really nice texture when you put it immediately into the refrigerator. If you leave it outside, it tends to have this kind of granular texture to it, which I don't think is appealing to me. So that's it. We've made some ghee, and all that's left now is the cleanup, which is a little bit messy. But you only have one pan to deal with, and it's not really that bad. And here's the final product. A nice yellow color, and beautiful consistency, and the smell is just incredible, just delicious. So there you go.